Hello and welcome. Greetings, aloha. I'm George, and I just want to give you a quick sort of wrap up. This is the first episode of 4 that I'm going to be doing over the next few weeks, and I just wanted to share with you my DARE method, the framework, very briefly. It's DARE stands for Dare to Discover Your Purpose. But DARE is also the acronym for Discover, Assimilate, Rewire, and Expand. And so today I'm just going to focus on the letter D for discover. Discover what retirement is and what it is not. So I'd like you first to just close your eyes for a minute and just imagine you are on a tropical island and you're in a hotel, in a small boutique hotel. You're on a beach bed a few feet away from the waves, and your body has been well oiled with sun lotion, and it's 90 degrees, so you're toasting, and you have a cocktail of your choice in your hand. Now, you go for a walk along the beach, and then you take a dip in the sea, and it's just blissful, glorious. An hour later, you're hungry, and you go for lunch with your partner, and it's French Indian cuisine, and you wash it down with ice-cool lager. Now it's the afternoon, siesta time, you take a little nap with the ocean breeze blowing on you and sleeping to the rhythm of the waves. Okay, snap out of it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not retirement. That is a magnificent holiday. So why is it that we have this notion that retirement is just going to be an endless holiday? That's pure illusion. It's myth. It's a mirage. It really is. And one of the ways I try to explain to people what retirement is like this particular story I've heard, which is about if you take a frog and you throw it into a boiling pan of water, it'll jump out. But if you place that same frog in a pan of lukewarm water, and slowly bring it to boil, the frog will boil to death. The reason is the frog can't discern the temperature change. Because what it does is its body regulates itself to just meet whatever is the temperature outside its body. And so it just keeps regulating until it dies. It just boils. And why am I telling you the story? I'm telling you this because, in a sense, that's what happens to us in retirement. We literally slowly boil to death because we can't discern the changes that are happening to us, mentally, physically, and emotionally. So, what's the other sort of issue with retirement is that for the last 20 years, most people have been retiring with a pension that's not really worth a great deal. So it means they have to work to supplement income. So they've got a lousy pension and a lousy job. What kind of life is that? So how do you change that? You need to flip it over. You need to flip this lousy job and lousy pension over so you have a great job and a great pension, because you're not focusing on the pension, you're focusing on your work. And work is something that you love to do, something that you lose all sense of time in. So that doesn't become work anymore because it's what you love to do. It's your passion. And so imagine if you're working at something you love to do, it's bringing you income, so your mind isn't focused on money. And your pension pot is the supplement, not the other way around. So if this is the case, why haven't our governments done anything to help us? Because governments are not there to help us. Governments are there to create a situation where we can do this for ourselves. But there's a double bind too for governments, is that they're locked into this pension and retirement thing because that's what previous governments have promised. So they have a great difficulty in backtracking. One of the reasons that retirement has gone completely off kilter is because we retire at 65 on the face of it, but our life expectancy used to be 58 when it was introduced, so there was a 7-year gap. Now, our life expectancy in the US and the UK has moved to the age of 83. So if you add 10 years, our retirement age should be 90, but it's not. The governments have to sort of scream and shout to try and push it to 67. Now they're even thinking of pushing it out to 70. But that's like rearranging the deck on the Titanic. It needs a radical change. And no government and no party really has the mandate or the courage to do something like this. That's why it's not done. And it's left to us individuals to think about how we're going to manage through this. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is that retirement is actually a hazard to our health. It really is. Financially, it's a hazard because we don't have enough money. So we're always going to be worrying about the money aspect in our retirement. So what we will do is cut costs, go on protective mode. And when you go on protective mode, it's a downward spiral. You know from your investments that if you don't invest in stocks and shares, you don't invest in things that are growing, with a bit of risk, of course, that you're not going to grow. If you keep your money in cash and bonds, you're never going to grow. In fact, you're guaranteed to diminish your assets. And it's the same with our bodies. Our cellular structure is exactly the same. That's how it works. If you are running away from a lion, blood will not flow to your brains. It'll go to your legs and your arms so you can flee, which means you can't think because your thinking has stopped. You're on a program now. It's a flight for life. It's the same with retirement. Also, when you look at our mental health, inactivity is a disaster. When your mind is not active, it creates new problems. That's why you have lots of time in retirement to worry. Because when you have free time, you're not doing other stuff. You're creating problems because that's what we do. That's what our mind does. It needs to be active. And if you don't give it activity, it will find some, and it's always going to be negative stuff. So you don't want to be in that situation. In the physical sense, too, there's a problem in that. Just to give you an example, our bodies are made of 50 trillion cells. And our outer gut has tens of billions of cells that need to be replenished every 72 hours. They can only be replenished if we are active, physically, mentally, and emotionally engaged. So this is another reason why it's not just inactivity in the mind creating worries, which actually has a negative impact on our health and because it creates anxiety and so on, but also the fact that our internal guts need this energy in order to change. And lastly, emotional issues, the challenges that come up in retirement are related to shame, because we tend to not recognize that when we retire, our armor is off. We don't know who we are anymore because we played a part in life. Our work was everything. And when we stop that work, who are we? Our armor is off, we become vulnerable and insecure. So when you ask people, when you meet them, what they do, and they tell you, I'm a retired lawyer or retired janitor or whatever, notice how they put retired and whatever they were doing before. There's this sort of transition. They need to still keep hold of what they had before because that gives them a sense of self-worth. And so in retirement, you lose that sense of self-worth and self-esteem, and that's damaging. That's, the shame comes into it. So as you can see, there's a convergence of three things here, chipping away at you, at who you are, and that is not healthy. So what do I know about retirement, you might be asking? And it's a really good question. Well, at the age of 52, I was diagnosed with a bone tumor, and that meant that I had to be operated. They had to take out a tumor the size of an eggplant sitting on my pelvis. And that took 2 operations, and when they did manage to take it all out, thankfully it was benign. I had to recuperate, I had to learn how to walk. I was on crutches for 6 months. And so I had time to evaluate my life. And I did it in a sense that I stopped doing what I was doing. I got tangled up in having to fund the litigation, so that meant that I couldn't do anything else. So effectively, I took on a voluntary retirement, semi-retirement. And I was in that position for 8 years. And it's a long time to be semi-retired. And I discovered that the issue of, I was talking about shame, about feeling that you're not really worth it, what are you doing with your life? Shame came into it. I was less active. Mentally, I was feeling sapped. So it was a sense of feeling a drain of energy out of my life. I could actually palpably feel it. And coupled with the stress from the litigation, I became unwell. And cut a long story short, I ended up going on a 30-day silent retreat to audit my life and to find a new path for myself, because I could not stay where I was. I knew that was the end for me if I stayed that way. And so in that 30-day silent retreat, I discovered about myself. I did an audit on my life. I looked at all the crises in my life and all the opportunities, and I realized that there would have been no opportunities without the crises, which ended up in me writing a book called Spirit of Gratitude, Crises or Opportunities. And it started my path on self-discovery and about how to emerge out of retirement and create a new life of purpose, passion, and potential. So this is my cause. This is what I do. And this is what I help others do. And so my question to you is, what is your purpose? What is your passion? What is it that you want to do? The Roman statesman Cicero once said, "Old age is the crown of life, our play's last act." Old age is the crown of life, our play's last act. Retirement has taken our crown away. You need to recapture your crown as I have. And so I'd say to you that recognize that retirement is sending you sleepwalking to a quiet death. And what you want to do is reclaim your crown and go out with a bang. Do something that makes you come alive every morning when you wake up. So reclaim your crown. And I will have another webinar, another Facebook Live next week on the second letter of the word dare, assimilate, which is about assimilating our understanding of our minds and how it works. And so I would say to you, wait for next week. But in the meantime, if you want to learn more, go to my website, georgejerjian.com, and sign up for my free masterclass webinar, which is about just under an hour long, and it's free. So go ahead and listen to that. And otherwise, I will see you next week. And thank you.